on record, whether we know it or not anyway. So why worry about it?
Right, exactly.
Hey, why worry? Me worry? Hey, why worry?
Yeah.
Yeah, so now, yeah, is that sufficiently psychedelic? Maybe that's pretty good. Saturation. There we go. There's that rainbow.
Wow.
Oh, there's Jim. Yeah, Jim's green screening too. Yeah, this is guys. We're really getting someplace here. This is, I think this could be a really productive art meeting about art and the blockchain.
I love it.
Like, you know, because art and the blockchain, we need to use expanded systems of perception in order to.
Nice shirt, Jim. Like that shirt.
That's a good look. Let's take a look at that here. Oh, sick. Yeah, Jim, you're like screening that, some plants, some becoming plant consciousness. So how's everybody doing? Oh, nice. Ooh, that's good.
Yeah,
I like
good.
that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you can make it, Michael, because I've been thinking, I started looking at a bunch of your stuff, and it was a lot. It was really overwhelming. And then I wound up I sort of taking a break and then just trying to write some semblance of something to sort of get some kind of baseline ideas down on paper, which I guess could then be expanded. I think I sent you the article that I wrote.
You did. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's more of a rant at this point than a coherent blueprint for anything. But it's hopefully will be expanded. I've already started expanding it a little bit, just to unpack a little bit more of some of the technical sort of stuff, right? For how we're thinking about like what the system is. But I mean, the more interesting conversation here really, I think, has to do with what are the implications, right? Like not like how does this work or how do we make this? I mean, in a sense, that's almost very straightforward at this point because all of the building blocks are basically there. They just need to be connected in the right way. But you know, the more interesting, I guess, side of this is how does this sort of become a form of digital commons? How does this get integrated into this idea of art as a platform cooperative or art communities as platform cooperatives?
Well, I'd say you've got the Internet of Things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if any significant thing should have its own currency.
Now, but when we say that things should have their own currency, can we drill into that a little bit? Because I feel like that means vastly different things depending on who we're talking to, right? And when we say like, okay, there needs to be a currency, we're not necessarily talking about creating a secondary market for those tokens or for that currency.
Yeah, the market comes later. Market comes if your currency is relevant.
But how do you prevent that currency from getting shorted basically on that market, you know?
You don't put it into a market where it's going to get shorted.
Oh. But that's been, you know, largely the attraction to people to cryptocurrencies, and even, you know, in relation.
That's why you've got such a bunch of bananas in cryptocurrencies. They're attracted to the tinkling, shiny thing. They're chasing money for nothing. They're chasing
money and chicks for free. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
So
what you do is the currency, like, suppose you have a currency. And I like what you're doing, then I can say, I like Eric, $50. And that means that in your accounts and mine, I've recognized a sense of value and obligation, which is not an undertaking to send you $50. It's how much I like what you did.
It's value and obligation to something that to labor.
It implies obligation. It doesn't. You can't sort of take that to the bank, as it were. take it like you're a garage band, right? You're a garage band. You're looking for contracts. You're looking for all sorts of shit. If you have your fans all attributing value to you, saying, this band is magnificent, this band is great, I think this band is good, then you build up all these points in your band's currency, in your band's name. It's pure reputation. You have a good reputation amongst your fans. Is that reputation substantial enough that people start taking you seriously? In which case, you start being able to translate it into real product and transaction. But you start from basically people saying, nice one. Well, nice too.
Oh, you're pretty.
But if you think you can extract from me a service, you might be lucky, you might not.
So in a sense, what you're saying is reputation, or the ability of like this band to maintain its sense of purpose in the larger cultural sphere. That is ultimately where we're placing the value, and that is what's generating secondary. Now, to me, what's interesting about
secondary,
that is
good. Very nice. Primary to secondary, yep.
Because what we're basically then, my issue here is that it strikes me as having the same flavor as the attention economy, where, because like I'm friends.
In terms of attention, can I ask you to cut your screen back end? Screen? We're in disco world here, and it's for me, honestly.
Oh yeah, it's a little crazy.
It's really cooking, man. You're all.
Yeah, man, you got to tune in, turn on. You got to drop in.
Go to the settings menu and shut it down.
Yeah, hold on. Here we go. Wait.
Let's see if I can find it.
Yeah.
Let me turn this off to go back.
Just go neutral in your settings menu. Otherwise.
Yeah, I got. Well, I did a whole maneuver to intervene. I hacked the video feed.
Oof! You did? Jeez.
Yeah.
Well, no wonder we got.
He could do that on an Apple, but not a PC. I've got a iPad.
Well, that's why Zoom's having a lot of trouble with Macs at the moment.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, haven't you seen that? There's a very hackable piece in the Mac Zoom package. Mac, yeah, check out Mac Zoom. And about 2 weeks ago, somebody pointed out that it was a lovely gateway, and Zoom's been sort of jumping around to fix that ever since.
Oh, nice.
Nice to see you, Eric. To see you, nice.
Yeah.
So
this is I'm in my beautiful basement studio in the University of Buffalo. It's a cool. They have air conditioning.
Thank you for that. Now, please go back to reality and tell us what you were.
Well, so one of my sort of points of interest is generally like the larger critique of the attention economy, and the way value is created right now. You know, I have a lot of musician friends, both in kind of the indie pop world as well as in the experimental, world, which is kind of more where I come from, but we're competing for attention, and like these platforms. Gary's making some coffee. So the way that value is created is we basically are constantly promoting ourselves to create reputation through these pre-existing platforms, whether they be blogs or Facebook or Instagram. I mean, I have friends that are like masterful Instagram like underground music influencers, but they're not really creating any value outside of the fact that like they're able to enact the language of desire, and then that gets people out to their shows. So my one friend, she goes and tours in Japan. People come to her shows, and she's making money touring. But there's still like the larger question of like how much value is being created through the creation of reputation, and like are we still reliant on these extraction platforms, extraction capitalism platforms in order to create that reputation? You see what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the problem. If you mix into the mainstream, you drown. You're not seen. There is no signal in that noise.
Yeah, well, yeah, and like so social media allows for us to create kind of silo sort of niches for ourselves, um, which is cool on a lot of levels, but ultimately we're only really participating in a small amount of the value that we're creating. And I was thinking about this yesterday actually. It's like, you know, I talked to some artist friends. I'm getting hey, is Jim, are you am I on speakers there? Getting a little feedback.
Oh, sorry, I'll kill mine. I've gone. Yeah, that's better. It's okay. It's my feedback.
I mean, I am obviously a fan of feedback, but also like I can't hear myself.
Feedback with control.
Yeah. Well, so like I was hanging out with these gallerists 2 nights ago, and we had this
Taoists. I like that. Were they Taoist monks?
Oh no, they weren't gallerists. No, I wish they were Taoists.
Oh,
that would have been way cooler if they were Taoists. No, they were just they ran a gallery. They run a gallery space here in Buffalo, and
okay.
It's one of these situations that's really kind of great because it's a beautiful, big, nice space, which is run. It has like a larger institutional sponsor. And so they don't really, it's a non-commercial space. So like they don't really need to make money.
Yeah, right.
They can support independent artists that are making work that's maybe a bit more challenging or a bit more non-commercial. And
stuff that nobody would pay to see.
Well, people do. I mean, like my friend Kyla, she has a show up right now and she sold a couple of paintings, but she also has some kind of like a giant weather balloon hanging in the middle of the room. That's like this like 50-year-old weather balloon. Is that like a commercial product? No, it's like a more interesting art piece. And she's got this whole area set up for this interactive performance that she's, it's not immediately commercialized. It's not commercial art, right? But it's art. And like the bulk of artists that I am connected to are sort of operating in kind of this fuzzy space where like what we're doing is not really sellable. It's not like we're not making things that are designed necessarily for people to buy. And that's like what they teach you in art school now, you know. But here's my point. My point is that they were very like hesitant or what's the word? They were very suspicious of this idea of art. Like they obviously want artists to be able to get paid for their work, but they were also suspicious of people making work specifically to sell. And they're like, if we had it our way, like we want to support people that aren't even like worrying about whether or not the work is sellable. They're just making the good work, right? And I thought about that and I'm like, well, in a sense, if we're talking about platform extraction capitalism, right? The idea of artists being able to monetize their work in a way is more radical than these like non-for-profit arts industrial spaces that are saying, hey, we don't care about money. Who cares about money when it's like, oh wait, it just cost me like $5,000 to install this show in your like non-for-profit art space. And the idea of artists actually participating in whatever value they are creating and being remunerated for their labor right now, at least right now, that to me feels more of a radical gesture than saying, fuck capitalism, let's just pretend it doesn't exist and somehow our rich parents are going to fund this work that we're making. You know, it's just, it doesn't, it's not radical.
You can pretend it doesn't exist, but
we very much do.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the space that I work through in New York City, I'm an organizer, like curator at this media art space in New York, and it's owned by this wealthy older woman who she inherited a shit ton of money from like, she was like Bernie Madoff money or something, and like she owns this space. and you know, they have a not-for-profit and they get a little bit of money and they give it to me and I organize stuff, but it's like kind of in this like weird vacuum where like I don't know where the money comes from. It just kind of exists, and I just sort of go there and do this thing. I don't really make any money doing it, but like it's great. Everyone loves it, right? This year,
let's rephrase that. I don't really make any money. I really don't make any money.
I really don't make any money. But you know, I mean, we actually got like triple the amount of money this year in grants, and I actually turned it down because it still wasn't enough to pay myself, you know?
Yeah, I know.
But so I guess my point to you, or my question is, you know, this idea of building reputation still doesn't seem to solve the problem of platform capitalism and its sort of extractive model, because we still need to generate that attention, and it becomes an attention game still, right?
Yeah, you're on the fringe. You're on the outer edge, which is where artists can expect to be. And to be sure, what you would do in this context at this stage will take a while to get you, you know, cash flow. Jim and I were just having this particular conversation on another channel until we jumped to this one.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we both had to go. We didn't know we were going to the same place.
Oh, nice.
We're just anxious to get the hell out of it so we can go somewhere else. but yeah, functionally, you know, there's a Newfoundland expression. What's it got to do with the price of fish?
What's it got to do with the price of fish? I like that. I'm gonna write that down. Hold on.
It's just like, if this doesn't really make any difference, it makes no fucking difference. So who cares? And what's got to be realized is circles of these monies that produce beer on the table, beer at the bar, bread on the table, that they work in grocery stores and they work in the pub. If they don't work in grocery stores and in the pub, it's nice, it's pretty, it's funny.
Well, but like, I don't know. I mean, this idea of a circular economy, like, so like I'm connected to a few different artist run spaces. There's one in New York that I love. They're called Flux Factory.
With the Flux Cares?
Yeah, no, I mean, they've been around for about 25 years. They've managed to stick it out, and it's kind of this really interesting space because they are, I mean, when I talk about what art is and what artists are, you know, especially in the blockchain community, there's a lot of misunderstanding about like what these things are. And like Flux is sort of one of these kind of strange hybrid spaces where when you go there, you're like, this is like a squat. There are like 20 people living in this weird factory, and what are they doing here, and why does this place exist? But then you start kind of peeling it back and like, oh wait, there's a board of directors, and oh, there's these really influential people on the board of directors, and oh, they have a not-for-profit, and oh, they get like $300,000 worth of grants every year. But it's kind of this like very accessible kind of ground floor kind of place for younger artists to go. You live there for 6 months, you meet people, and like it's super hyper network, but it's like not this elite art institution. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
It's more grassroots. And there's a lot of these places, and that's where the bulk of art happens. You know, the Museum of Modern Art is really, it's really a very small percentage of what the art world is. And the art world, artists, musicians, we exist, you know, it's like if you're a musician, not everyone's playing Madison Square Garden. You know, that's what people think being a musician is, but you're playing small clubs and small bars, and, you know, or like sometimes, you know, playing in people's backyards when the bars aren't good to work in, you know, or garage, whatever. Point being, for a community like Flux Factory to engage in a circular economic model, right, where there is value being created, the community needs to function, there are certain things that should be rewarded. And maybe the currency that's created by that community does have value, maybe not at the grocery store, but it may have value in other ways or in other places. Is that any less valid, you know?
No, but you've got to create the interface that makes that validity happen.
So what's the magic drawbridge? So me and my friend Lauren, I'm going to invite Lauren. Lauren, she's going to come in. I'm going to try to get her to come here next week. But we call it saving the bunnies. Lauren, my friend Lauren Van Haften Schick. She is.
Oh, that's not the Lauren I know about.
She's going to Cornell. She's finishing her dissertation in art and law. So she's writing about art and legal contracts. And so we go together to a lot of the art and blockchain stuff in New York. She's really fun, really smart and cool. But we were talking like a week or two ago, and I was like, yeah, like, you got to come and meet these guys I'm talking to. Like, you should come join the meeting. And we were like talking about like, well, okay, how do we save the bunnies? Like, we've got these bunnies, right? And we need to save them and make sure that, like, they can sort of exist and create value without being subject to the vulnerabilities of extraction capitalism,
Absolutely.
So in relationship to empowering these communities using the circular money model, it's like, okay, we may not be able to buy beer or bread, but like, for instance, maybe if there was an open currency that all these art spaces started using, so it almost creates like a national economy among these sort of underground community-driven art spaces. I mean, that's one model. It's very big though. Like, I'm thinking about like, how does this one small community of 50 people in New York develop a model that enables them, that helps sustain it in this hyper-capitalist, hyper-gentrified environment that they're living in,
Yeah, and this is about like saying, we want a forest. Where do we start?
Oh, I like this community way model. Can you talk about this a little bit? You want to bring it up on your screen?
Yeah, in fact, I can do it very easily on my screen because all I've got to do is go to my settings menu in Zoom and the virtual background and go virtual. Ding!
Oh, wow.
Love it. I love it.
Yeah, Zoom's got some benefits. And you see, I'm now the weatherman, but I got to do it backwards or something to point it. The point is this place down here, this change space, that's the magic element. That's where two monies change place. We call that making change. Because it's when Joe Public in the bottom line here buys the currency from the gallery, who got it from the local grocery store, because the local grocery store knows that it's a good deal to support the gallery.
Yeah.
We're going to throw 1,000 credits into the pot. Now these are credits, it's not cash, not stock. So they put 1,000 or N,000 over here in this bunch in one of these beneficiaries, which is a charitable donation. And it's got a tax consequence.
So in other words, it's not was this exchanged at one point for USD or for a fiat currency?
It happens down here that Joe Public says, I like what these boys are doing. I'll give them $500. They'll give me 500 coupons, $500 in coupons.
That exchange for dollars or euros or whatever. Yeah.
And that's like the chlorophyll reaction or photosynthesis or something or other, or the Krebs cycle. I don't know what it is, but it's like, this is where the two monies interact in a way which is productive for both. You get to put hard cash into the civic project or the youth enterprise or malaria nets for Africa, whatever the chosen venture is. But you didn't lose spending power because you got credits that you take back to the business. So it's two bangs for your buck.
Sorry, this is like the basic token model. You exchange USD for tokens or Ether or whatever. And
if the tokens are good, if the tokens are a reliable, actionable promise by this bunch, which they are if you do it right, which is what we're doing with these things, for instance. This is our art object, if you like.
Nice.
We print them in large numbers, but each of them has on the back a unique QR code.
Ah, I see. That's how you. But now the thing is, though, so basically these tokens have use value. Like we were talking about that city whose name I can't remember in Brazil, where the bus tokens become, they have use value.
Curitiba.
Yep. And then the bus tokens have use value, and that is ultimately what makes the value escalate. So in a sense, is that how we prevent the inflationary aspect of the currency, or the like I was actually researching, how do you feel about modern monetary theory? I know Jim probably doesn't. Jim, do you like modern monetary theory?
It's better than the old stuff.
I'm not familiar with.
Yeah, I'm not really familiar with it either. I mean, there's Arthur Brock stuff, the meta currency.
Yeah, they're good examples of MMT. MMT is basically the old system is short. We need to have a quasi-Keynesian ability to create monies that serve the society, the community, the space. Whereas conventional money just sucks. Conventional money is an extractive process. It just you can't do anything useful with that shit.
Yeah.
Very difficult. You know, whereas so MMT, it's a great call to arms, if you like. And
but it's not new. It's not new. It's like this has been around since the 40s, basically.
And the fifth before that. I mean, people were writing about this sort of thing in the 1800s.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
I don't like fully understand how the money doesn't. I was reading some like posts about this and how like there's a way like using taxation so the money doesn't become inflationary, and there's a way of doing it so it's not just endlessly printing money. It's just a different way of thinking about how we print money.
The need is to have a degree of enclosure. Have you ever heard of a thing called Moniac? MONAIC?
No.
Google that, or Wikipedia on Moniac.
You know, Benjamin Franklin had it all together back in the 1700s when he printed colonial script. Okay. And, you know, the colonies were wealthy. They were thriving because they had plenty of Benjamin Franklin's colonial script. And then, of course, the Bank of England came down on it, and they mandated colonies not accept this colonial script. And so they had to pay the people who built the roads with Applejack liquor because they didn't have any British pounds to pay them in. And, you know, and Franklin petitioned the Parliament. It says it's not that there's not enough jobs in England that people are starving. It's that there's not enough currency, to support the economy. And and so he regulated the currency in terms of the script that he provided. And I'm not sure exactly how he did it. Of course, Milton Friedman said human beings could never do it because it would always be political, that it had to be handled by a computer.
Well, this Moniac, you see I've got it up here, Moniac?
Yeah.
It was a hydraulic analog computer system for mirroring a national economy.
This Moniac. Oh, yeah, no, this is like a famous computer.
It was built. Do you remember King Rat, a movie about prisoner of war camp in Singapore?
No.
Where a guy built a radio inside the prisoner of war camp?
Whoa.
Yeah, that's familiar.
Yeah, that was this guy Phillips, Bill Phillips. He was just the world's genius. He did amazing fucking things. He built a handheld computer for navigation, airplane navigation, and all sorts of shit. And he built these computers in the 40s and early 50s. And a lot of national economies were persistently modeled on savings, investment, rates of return, interest rates, and so on and so forth, simply by tweaking the valves. You know? And they worked so long as you had a national economy with no holes in it. But if you link them all together, it's like a waterbed with no baffles. It's everything going everywhere. You can't do it anymore. So the ammoniacs all basically disappeared in the mid-50s and completely gone by the 60s because there was no way to do what these MMT theorists think they can do. They can't. Keynesian economics is basically as short as the ammoniac because you don't have boundaries, because we're not existing in national economies with corporations in them. We're existing in a corporate economy with some nations playing the game.
So in other words, there needs to be strong regulation.
No, hopeless. You cannot do it. I mean, it's trying to catch air in a chain link fence. It doesn't work. The stuff will get through. You cannot contain this shit.
So that's why MMT won't work, is what you're saying?
Yeah. This is a problem with a commodity as a value thing. If you create gold bars or US dollars or Malaysian gram or whatever they are, you know, then you're immediately into foreign exchange, arbitrage, leakage, over, you know, like it's one big mess with George Soros on the midpoint.
What I'm wondering though is, rather than thinking about the larger economic like structure and sort of thinking about this in universal terms, I'm wondering if there's like kind of more of like a small is beautiful kind of model that we could think about, that where like,
oh yes. Yeah, but you can't just think about it, man. You got to do it. You see.
Well, I know this is why we're talking. We're gonna do something. It's something that might happen.
When you began to ride a bicycle, did you think about it?
No. Well, yeah, no, definitely. I fell over a lot, you know.
No. Douglas Engelbach, right? You guys remember Douglas?
Oh yeah.
Raise your hands if you remember Douglas Engelbach, right? I heard him speak at a conference in San Francisco in 2004, and one of the things he talked about was teaching his kids to ride a bicycle. And he did it by getting them to move the handlebars. He would prop them up, hold them up stationary, say, now look, you do this, just do this. Just keep doing the handlebars. Keep the handlebars moving. As long as you keep them going, I'm willing to move you forwards and keep you upright. But as soon as they stop, he'd stop. So they'd have to start again and he'd square them up. 2 minutes and you're riding a bike.
So basically, yeah, so we need kind of like a form of training wheels to acclimate.
Oh God, no training wheels. Training wheels are death.
Well, even if for a little, like what you're describing is some type of augmentation that we create to help.
Not some type of augmentation, sir. Useful augmentation.
Useful augmentation. Okay, so this is
where the signal feedback loop is useful, not destructive.
Well, so is it possible to model these ideas in a small way without thinking about like, okay, this needs to work for I mean, this is one of the things that it really interests me about this whole sovereign idea, is that it enables multiplicity. So rather than thinking about like, you know, centrally planned economies and needing sort of this macro framework that's going to apply across the board to everyone, it's like, we're going to have like multiple concurrent realities, both economic and political, some of which are terrifying, like the implications are terrifying, but, you know, in a small sense, like if some people want to live, like like when I think about the crypto art scene right now, these folk, like I'm really interested in artist resale royalties as being baked into the fundamental fabric of the distributed object. Not that you have to use it, but that it needs to be there if you want to use it. So then it constitutes a form of unionism, right? Now, this was an early idea, like maybe 4 years ago, that all of us were really into. And what's happened is there's a group of people that have become more influential in that community, and everyone's kind of swallowed the Kool-Aid that this is not something that could ever work, right? Because they're applying economic models from other economies to the art economy, and it doesn't actually work. It's not one-to-one, right?
No, it's no, you can't mix this with that and expect a different result.
Like art as a commodity functions differently than other commodities, right? And so, and there's a lot of reasons for that. But what I'm saying here is that I just lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
Check out the link I just put up.
MMT. All right, I get that.
Because to get a different result in the monetary context, you need a different money.
Well, multiple realities, right? Multiple concurrent realities. So, like, if someone wants to live in a total like free market reality, like political reality, where like there's no regulation, there's no structure to it, you know, then okay, cool. But we can also create an alternative concurrent reality where there are protections built in, and there is
as many as we want in whatever ways we want.
So this idea that an MMT model couldn't work, well, it's like, I don't know. I mean, maybe in a more circular way, we could have like a sort of, no. I'm afraid you can't do this with a movable token. You can only do it with related behaviors in the network. It's the only way it can be persistent. As soon as you create a thing that is qua value, a gold bar or a coin or a token in Ether model or whatever, if that token is moved out of your network peripherally, through foreign exchange, through arbitrage, it isn't there anymore. To think about that.
Yeah, I think, you know, this is where we diverge a little bit. I mean, there has to be a place for representing something actual as a token, so to speak.
Yes, absolutely.
As well as the current we see, the meta currency. I mean, if you
as well as we need belt and braces or baby and bathwater. I don't know how you want to look at it, but you can't do this with just one of them.
Okay, if you look at the Rcast.
Put the link up there. Is that the one in your that you put up?
This is from just last week. Typical currency. Okay, that's. I haven't listened to it yet. They don't have the. They will be putting up the transcript here at some point. I spoke with Isaac, who was participated in the talk, and he's basically showing that how the content of a message actually becomes the currency or the money, and it achieves and how that can achieve an objective value, whereas
whoa, the word objective.
He used the word objective. I haven't seen it yet. Okay, but you know, it's no. I mean, he was distinguishing the idea of a value that's purely subjective, in that it has no basis in reality. Okay, to something that makes some kind of sense. Now, it's not. Like I said, I haven't listened to it yet, but I got the same feeling as the realization when, you know, I heard Arthur Brock talking about currency, you know, a few years ago.
Wait, Jim, so can you say this again? So we're talking about currency as subjective value. Can you unpack that a little bit for me?
Yeah, yeah. You accept money because you think it has value. Okay, you believe in it. That's the subjective value. And I guess if other people actually accept it, then that's proven out that it does have value. But it's your belief in it that gives it. In other words, a dollar bill may be only worth a few cents, but because you have a belief that it's worth something, that attributes its value. I don't know, but
so like bringing this down to like my level of understanding, like for instance, if I were to start a show space and our tokens were issued as a form of community currency, and basically you earn tokens by participating in the community, cleaning the bathroom, working the bar. But then what those tokens do is it enables you to book shows or like use the actual space to book shows or book rehearsals or things like that. Now you could also just put in currency, like fiat currency, to buy those tokens, right? But
got it.
Those tokens are primarily used for the use of that space. It's backed by the existence of the space, by the existence of the collective, right? And we can code into the currency that the tokens can't be sold without the consent of the entire collective, which basically prevents free market speculation on the community currency.
You can do anything you want to in your contract.
You can have anything you want in Alice's restaurant. Yeah, I mean that's kind of like my feeling is that like, okay, we can encode these behaviors into it, and they can be very arbitrary behaviors. Like that's like one of the things that I was sort of interested in with my art, was encoding arbitrary or absurd behaviors into how these microeconomies work to sort of push the boundaries of what's possible there. Like it doesn't does it have to make sense on a macro level, or can it just make sense in its own little circular context?
Depends whether the balls are round or square. You can create balls, but are they round balls or are they square balls? And there's difference in their consequences. And that's the one that we're used to thinking of monetization as items of value that we exchange around. The item of value moves from me to Gary, Gary to Jim, Jim to Eric, like it just moves around. It's the item that moves. Well, suppose Eric's sitting on all the items. What the hell are we going to do?
Well, can't we can print more, yeah?
If you keep printing more of the same shit, man, it ceases to work quite like that. Now, it's a question of the dynamics of different models, and a conventional token economy. Everybody starts with 100 of these things somehow or other. We've agreed we're all going to have 100. Pretty soon, Eric's got them all, and we're all flat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. Now, if you print some more, then Eric takes those. He's got 2,000 of them, and we're all flat. And pretty soon, you're all walking away saying, this is bullshit.
Well, is that like the danger of a proof of stake system, yeah?
Well, it's some of them. It's basically, this is Pareto. Pareto's thesis was that anything which is in scarce supply will not distribute equally in normal conditions. I mean, yes, the amount of water in a tank will give you a level flat, but if you take my standard one is the chessboard with 64 squares, and you take 64 grains of rice and you drop them in there, it's not going to be one each. And for everybody who's rich, there will be poor. And that's the way the world has worked with money for millennia.
Because money's based on scarcity.
It is. It's a carrot to avoid the stick.
So how do we remediate that? I mean, that's like a very big question, but you know, I mean, it's
circular money. Truly circular money is money that when I spend it, I'm on the hook for it. Therefore, it is coming back to me. It's coming back to my pad. My spending is my obligation. Mine. That's the sovereign issue of money, is I make a promise within this context, within these criteria, and and that puts me negative and it puts the rest of the community positive by that amount. I've gone down 1,000 to you, Eric, you spread them around, but there's still 1,000 out there. And if I redeem them, my money tree model is good. I'm good for my word.
Well, like time banking, basically.
Yes, provided the time banking is float. Now, a lot of time banks say, we'll give you all 10 hours and let's do it like this above a flat line. And then you get back into the Pareto curve. You've got to be able to issue the money. The only thing that makes circular money circular to me is that I'm on the hook for it. I have authority to issue on my own recognizances.
Each person or the collective?
Each person. The collective does not exist, my friend. The collective is a fiction of your imagination.
Oh, really?
Well, it can be. It's good to have it that way. The collective.
So is there a cap as far as the extent to which people can issue their own currency to prevent?
Yeah, their particular local credibility. If Jim keeps passing this stuff around and he never does a damn thing, then Jim's word is shit and Jim is no longer taken seriously. Jim becomes the definer as I become the definer of my credibility. Now you can set up rules, and a hell of a lot of the attempts to create community currencies in the last 30, 40 years have said, oh, I see, we will create credit limits, and that will preserve it. So they start a centralized authority that's attempting to control the variability of the system. Bad idea. That's like taking a bicycle and freezing the handlebars. It becomes impossible to ride a bicycle with frozen handlebars.
If we impose currency limits on the amount that
if you impose structural limits on a free-flowing system, you're fucked.
Can you give me an example, like in this like show space model? So let's say I've got, I don't know, pick a 20 people in a community. We have a space. Now, in order to book that space, let's say I need 10 credits, right? In order to book a performance during one night. Now, what's stopping me from issuing myself 1,000 credits?
You don't issue yourself 1,000. You spend 1,000 of your credits with the receiver. Somebody has to say, I'll take 1,000 from Eric.
So the community needs to say they'll take 1,000 from me. So there could be a consensus about who we're gonna like allow to book or something.
Gary, would you take 1,000 from this guy? Would you take 1,000 from him?
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, right. That's the point. You don't know. And until he's shown that he's good for himself, until he's shown I earn, I spend, I earn, I spend, until he has a track record of provider.
But there's a finite resource here, which is there's 30 nights in a month. And basically, how does that prevent people from abusing the availability of the space? Right, it's a commons. The space is a form of commons that needs to get distributed as evenly as possible. Now, that's not to say there can't be a little bit of wiggle room, like, oh, this guy wants to book 3 shows this month, and this guy doesn't really want to book any. Okay, fine. But what's to prevent someone from saying, well, I want to book 2 weeks of shows myself, and then you know what I mean? And like,
if you're talking about the allocation of a common space, then obviously there will be some governance of that. Some governance will say, to whom is this common space available? You've had it 3 nights this week. You don't get the next 3 weeks.
I mean, it doesn't seem like the more efficient way of managing the.
Well, within this space, you're going to have supply and demand pressures on the use of the space, and this is going to determine how much it costs you in the community currency to use the space. So, so those things can be taken care of naturally, but these limitations are the laws of physics. You know, the one thing that we've got, which is a true limited resource, is time. Our time. I've got 30 days in a month. We've all got 30 days in a month.
Yeah.
Anyway, those were my thoughts about what's to keep, you know, how do these things resolve themselves within this open money system. I mean, we're not abandoning supply and demand.
No, not at all, particularly around time and hard commodities. But the idea that our measurement system has to be a direct mirror of the scarcity is wrong. It's like equating inches and kilograms. You know, those are the measures by which we denominate, I'll give you so many feet of this, or, you know, this, so many, a bag of flour. Those are measure items. They're not the item. And we mustn't confuse the fucking two. And we do all the time.
Okay.
Time and time again, it's back to.
Yeah, this issue of using of measure and inches and you know, not being able to do things because we've run out of inches is the one that finally, you know, got me recognizing, you know, it sort of puts the finger right on the problem.
Yep.
Yeah, we can make as many inches as we want, but we still have a finite space for the table.
Yes. Yeah.
I still don't really seem to understand how that solves this show space problem where we do, you know what I mean? Like I want to understand how that applies to 30 days of potential shows that this space can host, and how this reputation system basically doesn't devolve into just us all bickering and basically managing the space through informal agreements rather than having a currency that lets people participate.
Well, it is both. There is only one space and so many days in the month. So there is a finite physical resource. There is a finite group of participants who want to be accessing this. And there is a governance process that will manage that. The money won't manage that. The money merely shows the measure of people's use or abuse of the situation. And if particular people are abusing such a system, they will find themselves basically ostracized by the rest of the group.
So this works for small communities then, is like basically.
Yeah, up to about 5 million, I think. I don't know that, I'm not going to say 50 million yet, but I'm pretty sure 5 million will work.
So a city, basically.
Or a small country. But only if it's multiple. A singular currency for 5 million people will be just as futile as everything else.
I'm wondering, Michael, would you be interested in helping brainstorm how we could? Because I'm not fully understanding this yet, and like, so would it be? Is it useful to prototype this, how it would function in the context of a show space? Would that help illustrate the larger idea here?
Yeah.
So maybe, I don't know if we should bother right now, but maybe set up a time just to actually maybe draw some diagrams out of like how this would potentially work. Because my ideas are much more straightforward, involving issuing a currency and using like liquid democracy to run the space, right? And like sort of, but ultimately the currency is basically a use value currency that the community can vote to create more of. But like I want to avoid some of these pitfalls of wealth distribution and, you know, the inherent imbalances that could occur if we if it's set up wrong, and I'm not fluent enough in a lot of these ideas to unpack the implications for certain decisions that seem fairly innocuous at first, but could have like cause major imbalances down the line, you know? Because like ultimately, if there is a community of like 20 to 50 people, I don't want one person just owning all the currency just through the, you know.
That would be very bad, absolutely wrong. And yeah, the short answer is yeah, we can model these things out in scenarios, and we can map them, we can display outcomes of different behaviors by different agents under different regimes.
Because here's the thing is, there's two levels to this I'm thinking about. Like the first level is artists co-managing a space together, right? There's that level. How are we using this space? Who has access? I mean, it's there's defined parameters, right? But then there's also this secondary layer, which is there's the culture that's produced out of that space, and thinking about how we can model that, and if that then retroactively reinforces what happens in the space itself. So it's almost like, I don't know if they're two economies or one economy that are interlinked, but thinking about like how we can sort of structure an entirely alternative circular economic framework that then produces a new type of culture, you know?
Yeah, I like that. I like that. And yeah, we've got things. This site here, Gary, were you at this site, Play Let's Net? Did you go to the Let's Play game? Somebody called Gary was on it. I noticed that. I'll have to teach you how to play the game. You know, you'll have to learn how to play the game. The game does not teach you. You have to, you know. But maybe we'll have a little chat about that one later. But yeah, it's a question of scenarios, of deployments, of explore the what ifs, right? And you explore the what ifs in different sets of parameters and agreements. You know, it's pretty straightforward once you know what you're trying to find out. What if this guy da 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 da? You know, well, that's the number, and then we go and take his knees off. You know, we go and talk to him.
Interesting. Yeah, cool. All right, I'm gonna look at this. Let's play.
Yeah. Look at openmoney.org/let's play. It'll give you I'll put that link up too. It explains what the game is about.
Oh, cool.
And this is just one facet. This is the mathematics of mutual credit versus commodity. It shows how a commodity currency and a mutual credit currency collaborate and the different behaviors and consequences they overlays. It's a very, very specific game.
Oh, I love this. This will be really helpful for me in thinking about, like, those are basically the two things, right? It's the commodity is the art, and the community currency is how the community functions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would be curious to know how many people we would have to have in a pilot project to consider this thing a good experiment for the collective or the Colab or whatever we've got here. I mean, Michael has an API set up where we can create our own tokens. I don't know what we can build a system.
Measures. You can create your own measures. You can call them tokens if you like, but they're measures.
Okay. So, I mean, we do really. There's not much tech to be done. We just got to come up with an experiment to play and learn this technique. I don't think there's enough of us. I went over and started to look at it, but I I don't think that would be very useful for just one person to try to get involved with this. We need a group, and I'm wondering what the size of that minimum group would be.
I'm looking at, you know, we've been talking about this for about an hour now, right? And this is quite common. I often talk with people for an hour about this sort of thing. The next week I got to come back and talk for 2 hours about it. And the week after that, and pretty soon it's gone, you see, because people cannot absorb that much. So what we're proposing is 2 minutes a day for 4 or 5 weeks. Just a touch and go concept. So in groups of 6. You know, because a single person can sort of map their way through this thing, but then it just falls off them, you know, when they leave. But if we have 6 people who jointly agree, okay, for the next few weeks, we're going to put in 2 or 3 minutes a day just to check on that an idea is part of this map. Not examine it, not detail it, not argue about it, not write another paper about it. Just, being there, tick that.
I just lost Michael.
You lost me.
Oh, I hear you.
Oh, okay. It was my connection. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, it's in the recording. Just go back to the recording, Gary. It'll be fine. Yeah, basically, we're saying that the composite of 5 or 6 people finding their way through the undergrowth or up the rock face is different from an individual finding his way up. If 5 or 6 people are engaged in, we will just check out this zone, then there's a collective intelligence.
Well, I'd be super into doing this as part of this channel.
Yeah.
Make breakout group. I can try and bring some other people in too, like other collaborators, so we can get like a group of like 6 to 10 people. You know, I mean, there's a couple. I mean, there's Steve, but like also like some other art people. So like, I have like two or three collaborators that I would really love to bring into the conversation that are coming. They're kind of like academic, new media, art theory types of people, but it would be really generative to sort of, but they're also really involved with lots of different communities and can speak to a lot of the issues that I'm trying to speak to as well, because part of the thing is like in just relationship to art and the blockchain, right? Never mind these ideas scaling to New York City size, scale. I feel like we need to have people, specific communities that will be affected by these tools, a part of the conversation, so they can raise red flags of like, oh, but if we do this way, then X will happen, and that's really bad for our community, right? Otherwise, we'll sort of stay in the more pure theory zone, and
yeah.
I want to make, like, for me, like, I want to make the affect very much a part of the development process. Does that make sense? You know?
Yeah, it does.
It's something it's missing.
You're on Dig Life, aren't you, Eric?
I am on the Hollow the Mattermost thing. Yeah, I'm on Mattermost.
Well, Mattermost inside Dig Life, the Dig Life chat.
Yeah, I'm in the Dig Life. I'm just opening it right now.
Okay. Well, I've just put up an invitation link to a domain in that space.
Which one? Which channel?
It's called CC College, Community Currencies College, and that's where we're going to be playing out these six-packs.
Oh, this is a very good primer. That one? Common space?
No, the last link is Chat Dig Life Co-op.
Oh, it's in the Dig Life community calls.
It's in a, well, I think you can find it if you're in that. But in our Zoom chat, I sent a link. We have our Zoom chat in space. Yeah, that should do it. You see, and I'll bring you to, yeah, there you go. Now, this is ready to roll, and I haven't populated it at all yet, but the purpose in this space is to support groups of 6 on a sort of a daily 2 minutes. And
I'm still not in it. It's making me sign up on the browser.
Yep, that's right. It will make you sign.
Wait, but I'm like already in. I'm already in the CC College.
Oh, you are good.
But I only see one channel. There's Common Space.
That's right. That's all I've started so far. I haven't even deployed the instructions.
So your last post was on July 9th.
Yes, and last week I promised Joachim I'd actually start this week.
But wait, so wait, is this what I should be looking at? The Common Space and CC College channel?
That's it. That's where it begins, and there will be a post there in a day or so that says, "This is the way we play the game."
Oh, okay, cool.
And then each group of 6 will have its own subspace in there, its own channel in that domain, and they will build their composite map of community currencies by signing the card.
So should I try and bring some collaborators into this channel then?
Wait until I've briefed it. You wait a couple of days, Eric. Yeah, but this is the game space, please.
Oh, okay. All right. Cool. Yeah, just let me know because I need to just like.
I will
explain.
I will let you know. And probably in the next 48 hours there will be a post up there that is sufficient to explain why we're doing what we think we're doing.
Nice. Cool. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it.
So, Michael, are you saying you want to keep the groups to right around 6 each? Okay.
Yeah. If you try to make a big group, then you get too much wastage. If you try to make a small group, it's not enough bread. 6 feels about right. We may find out that it's too small or too big, but I expect eventually to have 20 channels running on here simultaneously. 20 groups of 6.
Oh, word.
It's like a gondola ride up the ski hill. You don't go on the ski hill, you go on the gondola and you look at it.
Wait, and each group is going to be doing the same thing?
It's going to be jointly mapping their journey up the rock face or through the jungle or whatever you like to say. And it's going to use Joachim's card system.
Oh, that's on the website, the Dig Life website, which I'm not.
Yeah, Joachim's got this let's play cards, where you have, information. It's basically mini wikis. Would be one way of looking at it. It's a hypertext fields, but managed by cards. And that's how we will, I think, jointly deploy these ideas. So there'll be a card on permaculture, there'll be a card on governance and art communes, there'll be a card on relationship to bioregionalism, there'll be a card on whatever. And these are the cards.
How do I find that web interface again? It's not in Mattermost. It's like, I'm on diglife.com.
Which interface?
You're talking about the portal, diglife.coop.
Oh, .coop, not .com.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll be using that. We'll be using the notepad, the CodeMD. And we'll be creating sort of short files on topic areas, which will be available to all players in all of the subspaces. And the idea is to get within your group of 6 that you've hit 30 of these cards, have got 6 been here, like it, or been here, don't like it, doesn't matter, but been here is the key. So that over a period of 5 or 6 weeks, you and the other 5 people in your cohort have compiled some form of collage of mutual exploration.
That sounds great. Just like looking at this. Oh no, this is working. Okay, cool. Yeah, that sounds awesome. I'm really excited to get involved with that.
Really excited to have you involved, Eric. As we are all involved. Oh God. Yeah. Strange world.
Yeah, I don't know, but who am I to judge?
You be the judge.
Let's see. Totally. All right, cool. So I guess, does anyone else have anything else they want to talk about right now?
So should we carry on this particular topic at next week's art meeting, or do we want to set up a different time for that?
To focus on the CC College stuff?
Yeah, or just wait on you, Michael?
I'd say, keep art where art is. I think it's important not to collapse everything into one place.
All right.
The concept of the college is that it's a fly and go thing. It's not about digging into it.
Okay.
That's not to say you can't dig, but the idea is impressionistic, 50 brush strokes and you can see something.
Well, that's cool. I mean, my idea is to try and use the blockchain space as a place to prototype certain ideas. So we can, like, once we've sort of worked with CC College for like a few weeks, maybe we could take some of those ideas and start prototyping things like other types of things, very specifically related to art, rather than working in a more generalized sense. I'm still working on this distributed object framework, and I'm going to be sort of trying to start to flesh out some of these models for artists, like how artist communities can leverage distributed property ownership and circular, microeconomies. But hopefully those things will start to evolve over time. And my hope is that in the next couple of months, I could get some support in Buffalo to start trying things out almost in a type of laboratory environment in physical spaces.
Mm-hmm.
That's like my sort of pie in the sky. I don't know how possible it's going to be, but like I would like very much to see how people that aren't, totally wrapped up in this whole blockchain thing deal with and work with these tools.
Hey, Eric, you're in the basement. All you can do is go up.
Yeah. Huh? Good old basement dwelling. It's a lifestyle,
Oh yeah.
So for next week, are you going to do your presentation for us?
Should I? Yeah, I'm actually, I think I'm probably in a pretty good place. I posted both articles. So Steve was on last week's call, and we said that I was going to post a short 2-page article that just outlines the distributed object system, and the longer, which is still a truncated version of what I wrote. And then next week, I'm going to try to have a slide presentation. So when new people come in, I can sort of give a fairly consistent spiel about my ideas about art and blockchain and the distributed object framework. So yeah, I think that's pretty reasonable that I can have something by next week that's at least coherent. It may not be pretty, but it'll be coherent.
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed we didn't get a bigger turnout today. Maybe we'll give
the R song meeting for our chain was interesting on Friday.
Yeah.
Yes.
They seemed interested or interesting. Although it was I feel like that conversation was really just kind of all over the place.
Well, yeah, it was, but it was good. I have a question before we leave. Has anybody seen the movie Velvet Buzzsaw?
Rings a bell.
Oh.
Eric, I would have thought you saw it. It's a horror movie based on the collectible art scene in New York.
Oh yeah, on Netflix. It's on Netflix.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's pretty funny.
Did you like it?
I did like it. You know what? I did like it. They got some things pretty right, I think, about that scene.
I thought so too.
There was some pretty vehement responses on the blogosphere following the release.
Yeah. That would be interesting.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, art that kills you. Sounds about right. Cool, guys. Well, I will hopefully see you all on a couple of more meetings this week. And look forward to seeing everyone next Monday afternoon in the universe.
Right, sir. Thank you.
Great. This is a great meeting.
Cool. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.